theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Rong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Good afternoon, Suzy Rong.
Hi, my darling Warren. I'm here to remind you that you and I are the same age as the Golden Girls.
You've been waiting to say that, haven't you?
Did you used to see it in the 80s?
Yes, I did. I wasn't allowed to watch too much of it, but I did watch little bits of it. I loved it. It was great. It was really... Who were you?
I loved it.
Who did you identify with?
It. I don't think I identified with one of them, but I really did love it. I remember that they were older than my mother even, so it was kind of hard to identify. But I thought the jokes were incredible, and looking back now, I'm thinking, how did that work? Like, I was, decades younger than these women, and I was living in a completely different culture, but the jokes really translated for me.
And there's some similarities, isn't there, to what we're going to talk about tonight?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Except
it's today, and it's again right at our age.
But that's good, Suzy. I love that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting older, and there's an appreciation, I suppose, for something that has been produced now that we can really identify with. Whereas we identified with the humour and the characters, but now we're like, that could be us in that house. Suzy, should we get a little house together when we, reach retirement?
Well, if we have that kind of money when we reach retirement, we should definitely do it.
Do you know a friend of mine who in London who has that kind of money has owned a block of apartments or flats, as they call them, and has turned it into a retirement home for all of his friends who can't afford a good retirement, and they all get an apartment each. It's just absolutely amazing. I can't think of any
better way to spend your money.
Oh, isn't it? It's so admirable. It really is. It's the most humble person you'll ever meet. And these people are so grateful. And he's got a flat in there for himself as well. And so they've all got, I suppose, their privacy, but they're all in the one block together. What an amazing thing to do, and the perfect way to retire.
That's so great, especially if you haven't got kids, which most queer people don't really have kids. So I think it's a really nice thing to think about. You do hear about older groups of people kind of retiring together, finding ways to live together, and I always thought that would be a great idea. In a couple of decades, maybe.
Do you ever worry, Suzy, seriously, that when we do get to that age where we do need care, that we'll be lonely?
I don't really worry about loneliness. I think I work very hard on my friendships, and hopefully it pays off. Yeah. And one thing, I've always loved the idea of growing older. Maybe the Golden Girls is one of it. I always wanted to be a wise person, I always associated wisdom with age, so I was never afraid of growing older. Except now when you're older, I just never saw I just never expected the health challenges to be so real and daunting, now that, my, things are getting real, in my early 50s and you're starting to see, they're just these things that are just nature, that's how your experience is going to be. That stuff I wasn't quite prepared for, but, other than that, I'm not a person who's afraid of getting old.
Things do slow down physically, don't they?
Yeah, especially the way the body kind of bounces back from things, I think I stopped drinking quite a while ago. Part of it was, in my late 30s. It was still quite young, but I could see you just don't get over these things quite so easily. And then now, obviously, with every little ailment, even just a flu virus just takes maybe half a week longer to get over?
I was at the gym this morning, and there's some young guys there, and we all chat and what have you, and they're all pushing, and I'm pushing my weights, and my trainer made a comment, and he goes, "I reckon you're amazing, Warren." He goes, "You're lifting heavier than these guys in their 20s," and I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah. I really am. And they're pushing and they're looking, and I thought it's good to maintain that fitness as much as you do. I suppose you do take longer to recover. I thought, yeah, great. I felt really good about it. I thought, I am. If I'd have done it in my 20s, I'd be in a completely different place now, but I didn't. But yeah.
Consistency is a big thing, I think, especially when it comes to exercising. I have become quite strict with my exercises. I used to be very casual about it. But now I find that, it actually really helps a lot. Not just by keeping you kind of looking trim and looking nice, but also, I can definitely feel like, I'm healthier. I'm more resilient with the exercise. So I'm kind of taking it more seriously now. Just being really consistent.
And I think that's one of the things. I mean, these guys are all doing it because they want to look good at a party. And I think the motivation switches I've found as you get older, I'm just happy to do it to sort of prevent ailments happening and to, prevent, I suppose, muscle loss or bone loss, that sort of thing from happening. So your motivation completely changes in terms of how you want to look after your health. But let's talk about the show. Let's call it The Golden Girls for Gays. No, it's not called that. It's called Mid-Century Modern. Suzy, what did you think of it?
The show starts at a funeral where 3 gay men mourn the loss of a loved one. They had all been thick as thieves for decades, and even though now living in different cities, they FaceTime every night to keep in touch. At this moment of grief, they decide to bite the bullet and all move in together. Lucky for them, the very wealthy Bunny, played by Nathan Lane, owns a big, gorgeous house in Palm Springs with his feisty mother, Sybil. Yes, Mid-Century Modern streaming on Disney Plus is more than a little reminiscent of the Golden Girls, with 3 middle-aged pals and an older lady enjoying a beautiful home in an affluent town. They have tons of fun together, but also get on each other's nerves constantly. They make wisecracks all day long and never fail to find themselves in awkward situations for every episode. The style and format of Mid-Century Modern is very classic, very traditional. It is the kind of sitcom that might feel a little bit dated, complete with canned laughter and a plot line that always resolves itself in 25 minutes. It is also tremendously funny, with characters that become increasingly lovable as we get to know them part by part. The performances are strong and the writing is highly accomplished. There are many unexpectedly mature observations about being queer and about being of a certain age. Mid-Century Modern respects its audience and it doesn't speak down to us, which is a remarkably refreshing change. The jokes are cleverly structured. Even when situations are silly, there is a wisdom to how things are depicted so that we can join in the laughter without feeling patronized. I was surprised by how much I'd enjoyed the series and definitely want to see more of it after this incredible first season. In fact, I can see myself rewatching these 10 episodes again and again. It's just that good. Warren, I hope you complete this series because it gets better and better.
Oh, look, I absolutely loved it, Suzy. Did you get emotional with the series at all? Because there's something really special about seeing a show where older queer characters aren't sidelined but are celebrated.
Yeah, I think there are there are moments of deep emotions. It tackles some things that are not really kind of sad things, but just really deep things. So, there's a lot of poignancy in between a lot of laughs.
And there, I think it was Bunny who, I kind of got a bit sad with Bunny. I loved Bunny. I thought Bunny was my favourite character. And there was a moment with Bunny where, you realise, and a lot of, I suppose, queer people are like this. They don't have relationships or they don't necessarily have that intimate partner for various reasons, whether it be that they're not out, they have to hide, whatever, religion, all sorts of reasons. And there's Bunny who has never had a relationship in his entire life. And he must be in his late 60s?
Yeah, that's right. The characters are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. I like the spread of the age. And it was good to see Nathan Lane play this sort of character who, is very wealthy, very successful with his career, but always felt like, the other guys are more attractive. They kind of get into relationships really easily, but he's always found it a little bit hard. And I like that they didn't kind of make it convenient for him. They didn't kind of make him suddenly find someone and fall in love really easily. Yeah, that was good. I think a lot of it was quite genuine in a way. It wasn't super fairy tale like.
What would your dream queer share house look like if you had to have one?
How do you mean?
Like if you had a share house full of older queer friends or characters, what would you like it to look like?
Well, you definitely need to have some lesbians there because I think they're more reliable. One of the things that I've been really annoyed with my new home is I always feel the need to call a handy person to help me with things because I'm not good with all that stuff. And like in my head, I feel like some of the lesbians I know are just so much more resourceful with these things, like they kind of know the answer to these things. Like, if a cabinet door falls up, I have lesbian friends who kind of will know where to go, or at least they know which aisle at Bunnings or something. So I think
they've memorized it.
I think that stuff. I like that they have that practicality going for them. And I don't want to be the oldest one. I definitely don't want to be the oldest one in the home. I'd like to have older people around me. I think that's one of the things that I've missed in a lot of my life because I think both my parents never had maintained good relationships with their parents. So I never had great relationships with my grandparents, and I've always missed that. And watching this and thinking about Golden Girls, I think it'd be so nice to have, someone even just 10 years older to talk to, almost on a daily basis. And also to feel like I can give them some support.
Liam from Fitzroy says, obsessed. It's Golden Girls, but with martinis and caftans. Nathan Lane can do no wrong. Jules from Thornbury says, so refreshing to see older gay men portrayed with depth and wit. I laughed and cried. Angus says, honestly, I'd move into that house tomorrow. The design, I loved the design. I saw the outside of the house and I thought, oh my God, that's my ultimate dream house, that architecture. I absolutely love it. And Marco says, seeing Linda Levine again made me emotional. What a legend. Of course, it was her final role, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a final role, and she does so well in the show, and they made it a point to kind of not portray her as a subsidiary character. There's a great moment in the middle of the series when she says, I will not be ignored. I will not be neglected. It was such a great statement, and you do see that she gets, almost quite a lot. She probably has the same amount of screen time as everyone else, and but before she could finish the whole 10 episodes, she passed away. And in I think it was episode 8 or 9 where it was Sybil's death, which was obviously very, very sad, and it really made me think how these shows are put together. Like, it was all written so quickly because she just passed away and done really beautifully. If
you're just catching us now, we're chatting with Suzy Wrong about Mid-Century Modern, the new Hulu series. Harper says, my parents watched it and loved it. That never happens, never being in capitals, bridging generations.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by the depth of it. I try to look at the names. Like, a lot of the producers are very, very experienced. I think people that have done work on Will and Grace especially. So they've been in the game for a long time, and probably, they know how to bring a lot of kind of profundity, a lot of depth to the story, as well as making us laugh at the same time. It's a great skill. Like with any new show, when it starts, they're trying to introduce the world, introduce the people to you. It can feel a little bit light. I think the first 2 episodes were a little bit light, and I was a bit worried, but once I got past episode 3, episode 4, it was just no turning back. It was so great.
Renee from Brunswick says, it made me want to call my queer elders and say thank you. How nice is that, Renee? That's just lovely. And one more. Frank says, finally, a show that lets older queer characters be fabulous and flawed. And I reckon that's good because we are, we've all got our faults, haven't we? And we don't have to be portrayed on screen as being absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I think that's what we've had to see ourselves as on screen for many years.
And in real life.
We've been so afraid of being spoken of and thought of the wrong way because, for a long time we were always portrayed in demeaning ways. So, with the political movement, we have had to present only our good sides, and that can be very limiting. Obviously, that's what straight people need to see in order for them to have some understanding of who we are and kind of, wash away the homophobia and transphobia to understand, they're just like us, they're just like people too. But what happens with queer people is that then the examples we see on screen are so narrow. They're always the same, predictable characters. So it's nice that we're at an age now where hopefully we can get more and more realistic portrayals.
And I also think that we also put that unexpected perfection on ourselves, don't we? If we don't have any flaws, then no one can pick on us. No one can find them. No one can say, hey, look, let me point that out. And it's a lot of pressure and a lot of work to be like that. So maybe that's something that we can take into our own lives too, Suzy.
Yeah, and it's good that we're not a token in this show, that it's three gay men, and it allows us to see our friendships, when we see ourselves as singular characters in shows and movies, I think maybe psychologically, maybe it's not quite as healthy, especially as trans people. We are always the only one in the world, and obviously, it helps you become a strong person, but you kind of miss out on learning how to relate to people on an intimate level, just like in mid-century modern, because their friendship is so close, and it's not only good to see, but it's also a way to learn how to connect with each other.
Suzy, finally, Shane from Wodonga says, Suzy should review stories from my gay grandparents. It's a YouTube series.
Oh, I'll check it out. What's it called? My gay grandparents.
Stories from my gay grandparents. Thanks, Shane.
Great. I'll have a look.
From Wodonga.
Thank you.
Suzy Wrong, great to chat with you. You're having a week off next week, but you'll be back the week after.
Yeah, that's right. So I won't see you next Tuesday, but I'll be back the week after. In the meantime, a great song that they played on Mid-Century Modern. I haven't heard it for ages, but it's just fantastic. It's Salt and Pepper with En Vogue. And what's it called?
What a Man.
What a Man.
Thanks, Suzy. Catch you in a couple of weeks.